Good morning, I'm Meg from Homestead. I'm here with my cow Rosie and we are going to milk her from start to finish. I'm going to show you how I do it. The biggest consideration before milking is the prep work because that's where you're going to make or break the safety of the milk. So Rosie here lives out in the pasture right now. She's kind of on bare dirt because this is where I milk. You can see behind me lush green pasture. We are going to clean her udder and first we're going to brush everything off. I've got a brush. We are going to loosen any hair or dirt or debris that's on her, and that also helps to stimulate her milk to let down, which is super helpful. When you look at Rosie's udder, you can see that she has got two front quarters that are less full of milk and then the two back quarters are really full. That's because she's calf sharing. She has a calf that's about 3 months old and the calf has been predominantly drinking from the front quarters, which is not ideal, but also it's not a deal breaker because I'm milking her, so we're making sure that she's getting emptied once a day. If you also have a cow that has uneven quarters, either through her natural production or maybe she's got a calf on her, get some of these little plugs. This is going to fit into the end of the milk machine and it'll stop the flow so that you can continue milking until everything else is empty, but you're not going to cause any trauma to the quarters that are done. Now that she's brushed down, we're going to use white cloths to clean her udder. I use 4 of them generally, as long as she's not super dirty, and the first one's going to be really dirty and brown, and then they're going to get progressively cleaner. She was pretty clean that time, so now we're going to move on to the iodine spray. Some people do an iodine dip. I find that to be very messy, wasteful, and drying, so instead I coat the teats with a spray. And we're just going to let that sit for about 30 seconds before we clean it off. After I wipe the iodine off, I'm going to express about 3 squirts of milk onto the ground. This just clears any bacteria that could be hiding in the teat canal. To make the milk come out, you're going to pinch at the top like this, and then you're going to wrap your fingers around it. The hardest part about milking is getting the milking claw on, and I'll show you what I mean. We're going to flip it upside down so that the air pinches off. And I always work from the back to the front, so we're going to go the furthest quarter away from me, we're going to put it on, and then we're going to work around. You're going to be able to watch her bag empty in real time. I think this is one of the coolest parts. And I do have those little red covers blocking off the front too because I'm not even going to milk them. I can feel that there's really nothing in there that's worth getting out. I probably need to start buying stock and fly spray because we are going through a ton of it right now. The flies are horrible, and I buy the fly predators to kill the fly larvae, and then we use the fly spray when I milk them, but still they are just covered with flies. All right, so let me show you my milking setup. This is a Molasti milking machine and it's on a rolling cart. This is a really heavy duty cart and I use it to get the milk back up to the shed. I'm running an extension cord from the shed because my machine is super picky with the amount of power that it takes to actually do a good job with the vacuum. And then here's the other cows patiently waiting their turn. It's really easy to operate, and I just watch the pressure gauge to make sure that it's in the optimal range so that we're not damaging their udders, but they're also expressing the milk in a quick manner. And as I back up a little bit, you can see that it does have wheels, so you don't have to strap it to a cart like I did. But if you are going to and from a shed, this makes it super helpful. The next thing that I want to show you is the pulsator. It's this black thing up here. This is a really important piece, and you don't ever want to get it wet. You don't ever want to drop it. And as long as your pulsator is functioning properly, you're going to hear like a little click, click, click noise.
and that is kind of what sets the tone for how fast that it's squeezing the udder to get the milk out. It's certainly not painful for the cows. They love being milked and they love getting their snacks and brushed. It feels really good for them. My feed delivery just showed up. This is my oldest. He is bringing me pig feed, dairy feed, alfalfa pellets, all the stuff. It is so handy having a kid that can drive. I really, really appreciate it. While I'm milking, I stay with the cow. I don't ever walk away because they could kick at the machine. It could fall off. There's all kinds of things that could happen. But now I'm seeing that the flow has slowed down, and so she's done, and it's time to take it off, and I'll show you how I do it. There's a little valve at the bottom of the milking claw. I don't know if you can see it here, but I'm releasing it, pulling it backwards. That releases the pressure, and then I shut the machine off, and once it depressurizes, I'm able to slip it off really easily. Again, this doesn't hurt her at all. It's just like a woman using a breast pump. I keep bacteria from getting up in her teat canal by spraying chlorhexidine after we're finished milking. If you weren't aware, you cannot make a cow do anything it doesn't want to do, so I always leave a little portion of her food for a bribe to get her into this little catch pen. I pen her up over here while I shut the gate so that I can get the other one in the stanchion. If both of them are in that pen where the stanchion is at the same time, they are battling for the food, they're licking my milk machine, they're trying to eat my hair. It's just so much easier to have them completely separated for this. So now it's Spice's turn. I'm putting the food in the stanchion. You're gonna be amazed, but she will just practically run in here as soon as I open the gate. Now her calf, Maple, is about a year old and she is also in the pasture with her. I'm not gonna let Maple in because, again, I don't like chaos when it's time to milk. People will tell you that if you're new to dairy that you always need to get an experienced cow. That way you're not having to train a heifer that's never done any of this before. But I'm here to tell you both of my cows were heifers. I had no dairy experience prior to this, even though I knew quite a bit about cows. And I love it that I was the one who was able to train them. They know exactly what I expect. They know exactly what their role is. I'm not saying that they don't give me some attitude and sass from time to time because they totally do. But for the most part, I mean, watch, I didn't even have the gate open right there. We're gonna get her with fly spray really good, especially on her ankles. That seems to be the worst spot for her. If you have any really awesome suggestions for fly control, drop them in the comments. I'm really happy with the spray that I'm using, but I know it could be better. The next thing I'm gonna try is adding some garlic to their salt. Although I am a little concerned it could change the flavor of their milk. So I don't know, if you have experience with that, let me know. One method that I'm not going to use is coconut oil. I did try it the first summer that I was milking and I didn't really think that it did that good of a job. But some people tell you that coating them with coconut oil just kind of repels the flies. But also in a hot climate, it can make them really, really hot. And I don't want my cows to be any hotter than they already are. So I just don't feel like that's a good solution for me. Another thing that I want to point out while I'm cleaning her udder here is she has really nice udder attachment. When you look at the difference between her and the other cow we just got finished with, hers is looking so nice. And she is calf sharing, but her calf is drinking from all 4 quarters evenly. And that's pretty cool. And in case I forget to mention it later in the video, she's making about 3 gallons a day with her calf on her 24/7. The flies are really bad out here, so I'm using something called a cow can't kick bar. It's this little horseshoe. It just kind of pinches her right here on the hips so that she doesn't kick me. Now, she would never kick me on purpose, but when you've got biting flies like what we have right now, you can't really blame her if she just reflexively kicks her leg out. So this is just for my personal safety, even though she's not a kicker. Also, if you are getting a kick bar because you want to protect yourself from getting kicked, don't get the C-shaped ones. I think that they are junk. Spend a little bit more, get the U-shape that goes across the back. You will not regret it. I'm just repeating the same steps that I showed you with Rosie. She's been brushed, washed, and now I'm removing the iodine. And after that, we are going to spray a little bit of the milk into the ground just to clear out those teat canals. Another added benefit of this really thorough cleaning routine is it helps to stimulate her milk production so that she has a really strong letdown reflex. So I'm not having to wonder if she's actually released all of the milk in the cream or if she's holding it back for me. Time to attach the claw. We're gonna flip it upside down just like we did the last time. And I'm gonna go furthest away from me and work my way forward. As long as you keep all of those pinched off really tight, the airflow will hold it on. If you accidentally release one of those, the whole claw will fall to the ground, and that is probably the trickiest thing when you're just learning how to do it. She's a really fast milker, and on average it takes about 5 or 6 minutes for her to fully empty. My other cow takes about 10 or 11 minutes, which is crazy, the difference between the two of the cows. I am realizing now that I should have brought my microphone out here so that it kind of muffled some of the wind noises, but you're just gonna have to bear with me because it's in the house. I've got a separate holding pen where I put the cow that I'm not milking right now. This farm was never set up as like an actual farm. It was more set up as just like a country property. So we've kind of had to retrofit everything to our existing infrastructure. When we moved here, we had this metal corral, which is really, really nice. No stanchion, this barn wasn't here, this fence wasn't here.
These are all things that we did to make it so that I could milk cows here. Here's my morning routine. The cows are out in the pasture and I've got this corral shut so none of them can come in here. They know when it's breakfast time, so they get very excited to come in for milk. And I let one of them in, who's ever first, it's usually Rosie. And I let her in, she hops up in the stanchion, she milks, and then as soon as she's done, I bring her over to this pen, and this is just a really small pen where she can hang out until I'm finished with the other cow. While the other cow is getting milked, the two calves are in the pasture so that they're not up in my business. Sometimes calves can get really curious or even a little bit playful, and I just don't want to have to deal with any of that while I'm milking. So as soon as Spice over here gets finished, I'm going to put Rosie back in here, let them back out into the pasture, and they spend their whole lives pretty much on grass other than when they're being milked.
If you have a Melasti milking machine like mine, make sure that if you're running it from an extension cord that it's at least 14 amps. That's the minimum requirement to keep this machine vacuum running and having it actually emptying out your cows. I learned that the hard way when I was just getting started, so learn from my mistakes. I'm gonna get the milk machine out of here and then I'm gonna put the cows back together and we are gonna go process the milk. We've entered a heat dome in Kansas, and so it's really stressing the cows out. Cows don't like heat, it's hard on them, and they've got their calves with them, it's hard on their calves are drinking more, so I have noticed a pretty big dip in production, which is normal for summertime. Spice's calf is almost a year old, and she was totally weaned until this heat dome started, and then she started nursing again, so she's a little stinker and she's getting my milk. I'm going to sell her soon so that she can be somebody else's future family milk cow. And then Rosie's calf is still little and she's going to get to stay for quite a while because I like to keep the calves as long as I can. Now we're in my husband's butcher room, which I've kind of commandeered into a milking room. We're going to filter the milk through one of these paper filters, and then we're going to get it into the freezer so that it can get cold as fast as possible. Straining the milk is kind of a dual purpose thing. Yes, it is going to strain out any dirt, debris, or hair, which when you use a milking machine, you really don't have any. But it's also going to tell me if there's anything going on with the milk, such as mastitis or a high somatic cell count, because if it filters really slow, that could be a sign of a problem. If there are little clumps in the filter, that could be a sign of a problem. All of these things I'm just kind of instinctively checking as I go through this process. I mentioned it before, but I have Jerseys and they're both A2, which means that they have a really creamy, thick milk. So this straining takes quite a while with them. Since this part takes a while, I'm just going to tell you a story. So when Rosie had her first calf a few years ago, she wasn't producing very much milk, and I was so concerned about it. She was making about 1.5 gallons a day, plus she had her calf on her 24/7, and I was just singing the blues because I felt so sorry for myself that I wasn't really getting very much milk. Fast forward to this February when she had her little Valentine's Day calf, and she started making 8 gallons a day with her calf 24/7. It was crazy. It was like the floodgates had opened. So when people tell you that cows make more on their second and third lactation, that is no joke. So don't lose heart if you are on your first and it feels like you're just not getting any milk. You just never know. You could be in for a big surprise the second time around. All right, so let's talk about raw milk. I have been sharing more about how we milk our cows and how we use that fresh milk in our home. And I've had a ton of questions roll in on Instagram. So I figured this would be a good time to just kind of sit down and answer some of the most common questions that I get from folks who are either curious or they're just getting started, or maybe they're a little nervous about all of it, and I totally get it. So let's just kind of walk through this all together. Hands down, the question that comes up most is raw milk safe to drink? And yes, it is. If it's handled properly, if it comes from healthy, clean cows, raw milk isn't dangerous by nature, and the danger comes from poor practices. We chill ours really fast. I test my cows regularly. We keep things spotlessly clean. So think of it as like sushi. It's safe when it's fresh and cared for, and it's risky when it's not. And not every single fish is meant to be eaten as sushi. And if you've never tasted raw milk before, a lot of people ask me, what does raw milk taste like? And it tastes like real milk. It's creamy, it's fresh, it's a little bit sweet. It's not watery or weird like store milk, and it doesn't have that cardboard carton flavor. The first time that I chilled it right from our cow, I literally said out loud, oh my gosh, this is what milk is supposed to taste like. Another question that came up is, will raw milk make me sick if I'm not used to it? And no, it usually won't. If your gut's used to processed foods, you could notice a little bit of an adjustment, but mostly because raw milk still has its natural enzymes and good bacteria. Start slow if you're not sure, but most people feel better on it instead of worse. And then I always get asked about kids and raw milk and if it's safe for them. And my kids have been drinking it since they were tiny, and it's all about how it's handled. So clean cows, clean hands, clean jars. It's made to nourish, and I trust our raw milk over grocery store milk any day. In fact, one of the biggest food recalls this year was on soy milk and milk alternative products, and it actually made people very, very sick. And I haven't heard anybody calling for a ban on soy milk. I don't know about you. The next question is, how long does raw milk last? And it's usually a week to 10 days in the fridge if you keep it really cold. We chill ours fast in the freezer, and that makes a huge difference. So when it starts to turn, it doesn't rot, it sours, which means it's still useful for baking. You can soak grains and chicken feed with it. You can use it in old school recipes. It's just gonna have more of a yogurt flavor. Okay, what is the difference between raw milk and pasteurized milk? This one is good. Pasteurized milk is heated to kill bacteria, but it also is going to destroy the enzymes, vitamins, and the good microbes in the milk. Raw milk is alive. It's full of the stuff that helps your gut. It helps your immune system. Think of it as fresh sourdough versus Wonder Bread. One is alive, the other one is just simply shelf stable. The other thing to remember is as the heat denatures some of these vitamins and minerals, they are adding back in synthetics, and that might not agree with your body because they are not bioidentical. Next question is it true that raw milk can help with allergies or lactose issues? And a lot of people say it helps. I've seen it firsthand. I am lactose intolerant, but I can handle raw milk without any issues. The natural enzymes in raw milk help to break down the lactose, so even if you can't do dairy, you're often going to be just fine with raw milk. And of course, everybody's body is different, but it is worth trying before giving up on dairy completely. The question that I'm going to end on, I really liked. Somebody asked me, why do you drink raw milk? And the answer for me is because I trust our cows more than I trust the system. I want food with life in it. I want real nutrients, real enzymes. I don't want anything that's stripped or dead or fortified. Raw milk is a gift from nature, and it's how we were designed to be nourished. And it's probably my favorite part of our homestead life. So let me know if you have any more questions, and I will continue to answer them in the comments. But that's just kind of a brief overview while I clean my machine of what people want to know about raw milk. And I'm sure that there's a lot more that I didn't go through. The two main things that are going to get you into trouble with drinking raw milk are improper handling and a sick cow. The sick cow part is a really easy piece of the puzzle to eliminate because in all of my years of having cows, you can tell when your cow is sick. It hardly ever happens, but if they do happen to get sick, just think about your child, like a toddler, or your dog. Like, you can see when they're not well. You can see that maybe their eating changes, their poop changes, their personality changes. You can just tell, and then you treat them accordingly. Now, the hardest thing is managing all of the sanitation and the policy and procedures for sterilizing your milk equipment. That's where some people might get into trouble. But honestly, it's pretty easy. I'm going to show you the chemicals that I use. And yes, I did say the word chemicals. We use chemicals to treat all of our stuff. And that's okay. I'm going to show you how I sterilize everything. The first thing that we do is we wash everything with Dawn dish soap. I know I hate to use Dawn dish soap. I don't use it in my house, but out here I do for this equipment. In addition to the Dawn dish soap, I use something called dairy cleaner, and I just put this right in the hot soapy water along with it. This is what goes through all the lines, all of the tanks. This is what I wash everything over here with. Once a week, I use an acid wash. This helps to dissolve the soapstone scale. If you've ever washed a milk glass and it still feels kind of greasy, which with Jersey cows that have a high butterfat content, we are definitely prone to, stuff can just kind of build up on your equipment. So once a week, we do an acid wash. And people bring back my jars clean. I am real strict about that. If somebody brings me back dirty, smelly jars, they are no longer a customer. But even though they bring them back clean, I still run them through the sterilization session. Even though people bring my jars back clean, I still run them through my dishwasher on the sterilization cycle. And then I hit them with something called Starzan. This is something that we started using when we were making beer and kombucha. And it's flavorless, it's really strong, and as soon as it's dry, there's no residue left, so it's not gonna make you sick or hurt your gut bacteria or anything like that. If you're just getting into home dairy or you have questions about raw milk, drop them in the comments. I will be happy to come back through and answer them. But that kind of just gives you a brief overview of how we do this. I do plan on making more videos that break down the step-by-step details of this whole process. But just for kind of a quick overview, this was just something that I thought would be kind of fun today to show you behind the scenes of how milk gets from the cow to the refrigerator. If you enjoyed this, leave me a comment, follow my channel, share it with a friend, and thank you so much for watching. Have a great day, guys.